Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we try to make sense of the noise and find the real story underneath.
And there's a lot of noise right now.
There is. If you're listening today, you're probably still feeling it. That 13-10 loss to Indiana for the Big Ten trophy.
Yeah, a gut punch, no question about it. It felt like the end of the road in that moment.
It really did.
Yeah.
But that's our mission today, isn't it? We're not here to dwell on the heartbreak.
No, we're looking at the strategic fallout. The sources you sent over are fascinating because they present this paradox.
Right. How does a crushing defeat, losing the conference, somehow become what analysts are calling the best possible outcome?
It seems counterintuitive.
It completely defies logic on the surface.
Yeah.
How did that loss lock up the number 2 seed? I've been wrestling with it. So, okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it. And I think we have to start with the scoreline itself, just 13-10.
Yeah.
The fans are, they're stuck in that what-if loop. What if that field goal snap wasn't fumbled?
Or the play calling in the third quarter. It got so conservative. That's the emotional side of a three-point game.
That's the emotional toll, exactly. But what you're saying, what you're hinting at, is that the size of that failure is what actually saved them.
That's what the sources are saying.
Yeah.
That it turned a failure into a strategic win.
Precisely. And this is the pivot point in all the analysis. It's about how the playoff committee judges the severity of a loss.
So it's not just win or lose. It's how you lose.
It's absolutely how you lose. We have to separate the fans' emotional reaction from the cold, hard math of the rankings.
It almost sounds like there's a sliding scale for disappointment.
In a way, yes. And what's fascinating here is the pain of the loss is directly proportional to the strategic gain.
How so?
Because it was a narrow 3-point loss. They were competitive for 60 minutes. The alternative is what would have killed them.
A blowout.
A blowout, yeah. Imagine it was 33-10. The sources are pretty clear on what happens then.
The committee sees it differently.
Completely. First, that margin signals, like you said before, a structural flaw. It's not just a bad bounce. And second, that kind of performance almost certainly drops them out of the top 4.
So they fall to, what, a number 5 or 6 seed?
At least. And that huge margin just invalidates their entire season's strength of schedule in the committee's eyes.
So that 3-point difference was the magic number. It kept them above the line for the bye.
That's the analysis. They lost the trophy, but they won the ranking battle. And in doing so, they held on to the single most important prize.
The first round bye.
The first round bye.
And for you listening, trying to track this whole championship journey, let's talk about the value of that bye week right now, in mid-December.
It's invaluable. I mean, with this expanded field, the schedule is just so compressed. This isn't just a week off.
It's more than that.
It's a full 2-week window for recovery and planning. And we're not just talking about nursing minor injuries in a vague sense.
Okay, so give us some specifics. What are they actually recovering from?
Well, the sources cite studies on cumulative fatigue, the stuff that doesn't even show up on an official injury report.
Chronic soreness, things like that?
Exactly. Chronic muscle soreness, tendinitis flare-ups, and maybe most importantly, just mental exhaustion.
So this time lets them actually heal, not just patch things up.
Right. The training staff can use deep tissue work, specialized therapy. They can let those little bumps and bruises that slow you down just dissipate.
Whereas if they had to play in that first round on December 20th,
they'd be cramming, they'd be game planning, managing injuries on the fly, traveling. Instead, they get a week of pure healing, then a week of pure prep.
The total reset button.
It is. Think of the energy, physical and mental, that they're saving. They get to reevaluate that loss, learn from it, and come back stronger for the quarterfinals, the actual elimination games.
So instead of fighting for their lives, they're healing and strategizing.
That's it. It turns what would be injury management into a real competitive advantage.
A tough pill to swallow, but strategically. You lose the battle for the conference to get an advantage in the war for the title.
Perfect way to put it. And that brings us to the concrete outcome of all this.
Which is?
Yeah.
They've officially locked up the number 2 seed. And now they get to watch the chaos of that first round from home.
Or their training room, yeah. They skip all of that potential chaos on December 20th.
And you just know there's going to be chaos.
Always. You've got the number 7 seed versus the number 10, the sudden death pressure. Someone's going to get a significant injury. It's inevitable.
So while those teams are spending all that physical and emotional capital,
our team is resting, they're studying film, they're healing. It is an enormous advantage in this kind of playoff format.
And it's not just when they play, it's also where. Which brings us to Dallas.
The Cotton Bowl symmetry.
Yes. The sources suggest this is a huge mental edge, and this is where it gets really interesting for me.
It's so much more than just, knowing the stadium layout. It's about associating that specific place with success at the highest level.
The mindset of an athlete.
Absolutely. When the margins are this thin in a playoff game, eliminating the unknown of a new venue it's a huge deal.
So remind us, why is Dallas specifically so important for this team?
The source material is really clear on this. The road to the trophy last year, it went straight through Dallas.
Right. The Cotton Bowl was the site of the semifinal win against Texas last year.
The game that sent them to the national championship. They walked off that field knowing they could deliver under the most intense pressure imaginable.
So they know this stadium, but it's more than that. They know how to win big games there.
That's the core of it. The memory of victory, the expectation that you can do it again. You're not worrying about the sightlines from the bench or where the locker room is. You're just focused on the opponent.
And for everyone listening, keeping their calendars marked, we have the exact details.
Yep, the quarterfinals are set. New Year's Day, January 1st, around 11:00 a.m. Eastern.
A great morning kickoff slot.
It is. And the source even made a point to mention this was for the global fans, including details for people tuning in from Australia.
January 1st. In a stadium that feels like a home away from home. Okay, let's pivot now. Let's talk about who they'll be facing and the psychological blueprint they're working from.
We're moving from the when and where to the who and how.
Exactly. We don't know the specific opponent yet, but we know who's fighting for that spot.
The winner of number 7, Texas A&M, and number 10, Miami.
So for the fans, that gives you the game to watch on December 20th. You get to scout your next opponent.
That's the immediate scouting report, for sure. But the deeper analysis in the sources, it focuses less on A&M or Miami's X's and O's and way more on this team's own history.
The been-here-before narrative.
It's it.
This blueprint for success that keeps coming up. So remind us of that precedent, because it seems to be the core psychological advantage they have now.
The parallel they draw is direct, and it's powerful. It goes back to last year's championship run.
After that painful loss.
After that painful, embarrassing loss to their biggest rival, the team up north. That wasn't just a defeat. For them, it was a public humiliation.
And it forced them to regroup.
Immediately, existentially. But instead of folding, they went on that run, they ran the gauntlet, and won the whole thing.
So that's the blueprint. The loss, regroup, win cycle.
Precisely. It's not a theory for them. It's a path they've actually walked. They know what it feels like to hit rock bottom, to process that pain, and then to channel it into an incredible focus.
That's a fascinating way to frame it. So the loss to Indiana isn't a detour from the plan.
It's a confirmation of it.
It's confirmation that they are now on that same proven championship path from last year.
Yes. And I think the sources suggest that experience surviving a painful loss and immediately pivoting is maybe even more valuable than going undefeated.
Why?
Because the undefeated team is dealing with that crushing pressure of perfection every single week.
Okay, but let me challenge that for a second. Couldn't that lead to complacency? That they almost expect a loss to be part of the journey now?
That's a great question, and the sources do address it. They contrast the nature of the two losses.
Yeah.
Last year's loss was humiliation. The response was anger, pure focus. This year's loss to Indiana, it was disappointment. It wasn't annihilation.
It was a narrow, managed loss, as we discussed.
Right. The blueprint still works because they learned how to handle the pain of defeat in 2024. Now, in 2025, they just use that skill to make the pivot faster.
So the team walking into the Cotton Bowl has already shed the weight of trying to be perfect.
They've been bruised, but not broken, just like the title says. And that mental freedom could be what allows them to play their best.
And if you connect this to the bigger picture,
the loss might be the necessary ignition switch. It refocuses everyone, reminds them the margin for error from here on out is 0, but it does it without the crushing weight of an undefeated season on their shoulders. They are battle-tested before the real war even starts.
it's still tough.
Yeah.
I admit, watching that third quarter stall out against Indiana, I was ready to throw my remote. It's hard to see the strategic gain in that moment.
Of course. The sources basically implied this was the cost of doing business to get into the playoff bracket in the best possible position.
Which brings us to our summary. Despite the sting of losing the conference, getting that number 2 seed in the bye week has put this team in a perfect position.
They lost the battle, but the war for the national championship is very much alive.
and they have a proven psychological roadmap to follow.
And that 3-point loss might have been the cheapest possible price to pay for that roadmap in that position. It was a highly managed strategic outcome.
So we'll leave you, the listener, with a final thought to mull over as you watch that first-round chaos on December 20th.
Given the history and the value of this 2-week rest,
Was this 3-point loss actually the necessary cost of admission to the national championship?
and really how much does that stadium familiarity, that mental map of the Cotton Bowl, truly impact performance when the stakes are this high?
The stage is set. The team is resting. Now we just have to wait and see who gets to step onto that field against them. So what does this all mean for the road ahead? Tune in on New Year's Day. Until then, keep digging deep.